Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's Floss. It's time for a book review. Haven't done one of those in a while. I will say straight off the bat before I even get started on this book does contain some severe trigger warnings. It has a lot of, and this review will also talk about that in terms of the book itself is based on a rape that's quite violent. It also covers sexual assault and intense therapy and psychological issues. So any of these issues cause you emotional distress, I would suggest that this book maybe isn't the book for you, and that this review also might not be the most appropriate review for you to watch. Otherwise, let's get into the book itself and the review, where we can talk about those issues with thought and care and hopefully some substance. So the book is All Is Not Forgotten by Wendy Walker. This is one of those books that sort of is been talked about a lot. It is referenced alongside, strangely, Gone Girl and Girl on a Train. It's kind of that series of books. It actually isn't, in my view. It's not related to a sort of anti-heroine or anti-heroine lead or a woman who's hiding secrets. It's very different to that in respect of theme and tone. The only relation I can see is that the subject matter is quite dark and there is issues of severe distress covered. So I wouldn't say it's a Gone Girl type of book, but people keep saying that. I don't know why. It's the story of Jenny Kramer, who is a 16-year-old girl at a party, and we learn straight away from the book that she is raped at this party. She leaves the party in distress because a boy she likes is talking to someone else. She gets a bit drunk and she goes outside into the forest and is brutally attacked. The book instantly takes you right into the action and you are immersed in the rape itself. It's told from a third-person perspective in terms of someone else recounting it as it's told to them by police and about the actual assault in that manner. So it is not in first person graphically violent in that respect, but it still is graphically violent. But I would say, in defense of this, it is important to know how shocking the rape itself was and what happened for the length of it and all those small details, because of the impact that it has across the entire book and why what happens later happens. Later on in that first chapter, we are at the hospital where Jenny's parents are offered by the doctors a fictitious drug that in the book is real, but in real life not real, which would wipe her memories of the event. It's meant to be administered very quickly so that the memories, and it's described in the book, won't cement themselves into her brain, that she will know she's raped, and they don't hide the fact that she is raped, but she'll forget the actual vision and the feelings and all that kind of stuff. Her parents are split about whether to do this or not. Her father is actually very against it because, as the police warn, if she ever does recover her memories, none of them can be used in court. She won't be able to ever testify against anyone who's found for the crime. The drug makes her an unreliable witness, but her mother wants her to take it, doesn't want her to live with these memories, and thinks that this is a great way to solve the problem, in a way to move on, and just kind of like, if she takes it, we'll heal her physically and it will be fine. Of course, this doesn't quite work out the way it's intended, and both sides of the argument are presented with reasons for and against. They do decide to take the drug, and then we join the story 8 months later where Jenny is flailing badly in terms of she cannot understand why she's having these physical reactions to unconnected stimulus. She is incredibly shattered and broken, and although she's physically healed, mentally she's almost worse in a way. The family is tearing itself apart with the secrets and the choices that they made that night, and nothing is right. And it's a small community where the rape happened, so they can't escape it. There is no suspect. Jenny's father is incredibly angry about this, and it just seems to be boiling up. She's connected with a therapist who is an expert in recovering lost memories of this type. They've been using this drug on a few soldiers previously, and he's been working with them, and you're in his voice as he goes through the therapy sessions. What then transpires is a giant puzzle that throughout the book then starts to connect. So that's kind of what the book is about. Did I enjoy the book? I really, really did. It's a harrowing read, for sure. This is not light reading. It's not enjoyable in the sense that you don't smile. It's not a laugh-a-minute book. There's no romance. It's an intense book that gives you incredibly complicated reactions and feelings to things. It asks you questions about memories, and that was really interesting to me in the book itself, is that the discussion of how we remember things and why and where they're attached to and what provokes that memory. Even the slightly medical jargon that's included is interesting because it makes you really think about how you process your own memories and trauma and issues, and how we, as science catches up to that, want to intercept that, and how that could be really dangerous. And it's not too sciencey, it's not really based on that. It's just more about those questions into an actual event that's happened. The characterizations are great. There's some frustrating moments that I can't really say too much without spoiling, so I won't. For everyone involved, everyone is incredibly complex. It's adult in not only its resolutions but also its characterizations of people's mistakes, in that everyone is flawed, everyone has issues to deal with. Yeah, it's a page turner, I will say that, in that you are desperate to find out what happens and how all these pieces start coming together, and then at times not coming together, and you want them to, and towards the building climax, you're like, oh my god, and then there's a few revelations that really change your perspective on people's motivations. And that, I think, is a big point of this book, is that not only is the science angle really interesting, but people's motivations when given power, and whether that's in physical ways such as sexual assaults and whatnot, but then also in memory and how we want to preserve our feelings and how we want people to remember us, and how we want surface things to look okay and not look okay. It's a challenging read. And look, as I said at the start before, I did say trigger warning, and even if you come this far and you are interested in reading it, it is quite harrowing. The rape itself is discussed in a clinical way, but it's discussed in depth in terms of what happened, and it is a brutal assault. I think the rape had to be brutal to match what was happening in the story, and you realise that a lot later on why. But at the same time, even as you're reading it, it hurts. It physically, mentally, you hurt for the person that it's happening to. So I would definitely warn you on that one. I would have, if you're like me, I like to change my reading themes. The next book I'm reading is a love story. I need something lovely now. I need something sweet. I will say it's not a scary, knock at the door, boogeyman horror scary. It's more of a thinking scary, and people are messed up scary. So this is a book that I would recommend, but I would recommend with a lot of caveats and asterisks and apostrophes and warnings. So I would definitely say it's for adult readers, and I don't usually put category onto reading, or I don't usually put age restrictions onto reading a book, but a book like this, where it is discussing not only assault but also adult themes like memory processing and how that matches sexual violence. It is an adult book. It is a book that you should be reading with that in mind, and it is an interesting read. It will keep you, once you've read it, you want to discuss with people about what happened. But I can recommend it, but I recommend it with warnings. That's it. It's actually a really hard book to review in that it's not even an enjoyable read. It's a page-turning thinking read that I was fascinated by, but I didn't enjoy it, but I did. Yeah, I'm interested to know in terms of, I'm trying to think of another correlative book that it left me feeling uncomfortable and uneasy, but at the same time, I'm really glad I read it and I enjoyed the read, but not necessarily the story, if that makes sense. Yeah, it's a tough one. This is a really tough book. And that's probably the best way I can say it. It's a good, tough book. This was sent to me by review for Harlequin Books. Thank you very much. And I also selected it for a book club that I run called Books, Wine, Gossip, which you can find more details out below, for adults who enjoy this kind of read, or also other kinds of reads. But if you're interested in any of that, we do it. It's in Melbourne, and we do it once every 6 weeks. I'll be back with another review shortly. I'm a lighthearted, happy one, I promise. More Bachelorette recaps. Thank you very much for watching my video. Please subscribe to the channel, leave any comments below. Have you read any books like this that are incredibly challenging that you would recommend, but recommend with a big caveat, a big warning on them? And how do you do that? That's a question that's really plagued me as I've thought about this, is how do I recommend this book but also make sure that people are very aware heading into it that this has got some serious issues that need to be factored in. So I'm interested, book reviewers, book readers out there, how do you recommend books that are tough?